Well, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Elliot Kallen, CEO of Prosperity Financial Group. Welcome to another exciting episode of Meet the Expert with Elliot Kallen. Again, we have so many entrepreneurs that listen to these shows. We're not top 2% in the world at this point, which is very exciting. We're going to do a show designed for coaching and designed for people that like being coached. So if you're someone who is thinking about getting into coaching business, executive coaching, or you are a CEO or COO, and you know your company could use that little bit of oomph on how to get more motivated, or how to get more out of the clock, or how to get more things done. Robert Hargrove here. And so let's talk about what we're doing now with coaching for a moment. Robert's out of Boston. He's the coach's coach, which means he coaches people on how to be a coach, and he himself is a coach. And he's one of those people that some people think he created, especially in the New York Times, he created an entire movement of coaching. I know coaching very well because I've been to many sessions with people like Anthony Robbins, Tony Robbins. I've walked on fire with him. I've done Weekend of Destiny. I'm a big fan of coaching, and I know coaching is a lot more, Robert, than here's my watch, so now you can tell me how it's built or what time it is. So why don't we talk about how do you grab attention as a coach, and what exactly does a coach do?
Well, I think I remember you told me that you played sports. You were a hockey player at one time for a professional sports.
Absolutely played hockey and at a high level.
So I wrote a book called Masterful Coaching a long time ago, 1995, and I basically drew an analogy from sports, and that is that if you look at, I walked into a bookstore, a Barnes and Noble bookstore, and I saw a book called Coaching for Improved Performance, and that seemed so dull. And I started thinking about, because I do come from the Boston area, and like LA, we have a lot of we won many championships. So I see a coach's role is helping people to realize an impossible dream, or the way I actually usually write about it, helping people to realize an impossible future versus just a predictable future. Just like winning an NBA title or a Stanley Cup or the Super Bowl. So a coach's job is to help people realize their impossible dream, whatever that is, changing the world, creating $1 billion unicorn from scratch, whatever. It's also about helping people find a way to get a massive competitive advantage in their business. And the only way you can realize an impossible dream and get come up with a breakthrough idea that will give you a massive competitive advantage is you have to change. You have to change something about yourself. You can't 10x your business without transforming yourself, your team, and your organization. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Okay, that's exciting. Well, this is Meet the Expert with Elliot Kallen. If you need to reach me, I'm at 925-314-8503 or www.prosperityfinancialgroup.com or Elliot, ELLIOT, at prosperityfinancialgroup.com. We'd love your comments. We've got more than 100 episodes like this on our website. This is going to be great. We're going to do this for the next 20 plus minutes and learn what coaching is about and why Robert is so good at what he does that some people have actually said he's better than Anthony Robbins, just not as big, but just definitely better.
You know, what's interesting is you told me you had a lot of CEOs and entrepreneurs, C-suite people listen to your website. And I'm sure that the vast majority of them are raving fans of people in sports. The basketball, football, baseball, hockey. But unfortunately, a lot of executives seem to think that coaching is not for other people, not for them, that they can go to the top, that they can realize their impossible dream without a coach. And unfortunately, it's really not true. The higher you raise the bar of excellence, the more you need coaching, whether you're a championship athlete or a violinist at Carnegie Hall or a CEO.
So you and I know, we could do 1,000 sports metaphors here and to executives and how they apply. And I don't want to really do a lot of them because not everybody plays sports or follows sports. But we do know that there's a difference of levels of mediocrity where people are, levels of mediocrity, of wallowing in mediocrity, and those that break out, those that are just exceptional. They do exceptional things. They have exceptional results. And I'm talking about in the business world now, not the sports world, because in the sports world, if you've got a God-given talent that you could throw a pitch faster than everybody else out there.
Yeah, that's a very good point you make. What is it that separates people like Steve Jobs or Elon Musk or uh, uh, Jeff Bezos of Amazon? What is it that distinguishes them from everybody else? And I don't know if you want to give the answer to that question. I really think it's the willingness to take on the impossible. So you find a problem that exists in the world, and you find a customer who has that problem, and you go for it. I mean, it's always. I'm not the greatest fan of Elon Musk, but it's been really fascinating to me that in a few years, he became a mission-driven leader, and he created a company whose mission was to accelerate the shift to sustainable transport. Now, over many years of being a coach for Fortune 500 CEOs, you know what the mission of most of them turns out to be? They always have a goal or a strategy, but for the most part, their attention is not focused on that moonshot or that new kind of car. It's always on meeting next quarter's returns for Wall Street. And oftentimes doesn't get any bigger than that. It really comes down to the kind of person you are.
So if I were to pick 3 characteristics that CEOs and entrepreneurs have that you've seen over 20, 30, 40 years of experience, and these are 3 really good characteristics and traits that either they have it or they could develop it, what do you think those are?
That's an excellent question. Let's see if I can think of something right off the bat. I think the first, most CEOs or entrepreneurs, C-suite people, they have excellent credentials. They went to Harvard Business School. They went to Stanford. Mark Cuban went to the University of Pittsburgh. But the credentials really have very little to do with it. What I found over the years is that the most important criteria for getting to the top and staying at the top is character skills. Skills like integrity, honesty, authenticity, empathy, self-reflectiveness. So I wouldn't make the first. The first thing I would do is I would place character skills over credentials and being a great CEO. The second one is what I would say is daring to dream. I interviewed, I don't know if you remember Werner Erhard a long time ago. Actually, I interviewed him back in the 70s. And there's one quote I still remember from that interview. And he said that a real leader is someone that dares to dream and dares to dream beyond the wildest possible pushings of your imagination and beyond that, and beyond that. And that's a direct quote that I've remembered for over 40 years. So number one is character skills. It turns out that soft is hard. The qualities like integrity, empathy, ambition, it have a very strong impact because they're the things that create a following with other people. So character skills, daring to dream, and I think there's a secret one that nobody knows about, which is why I'm glad you asked the question. It's that the willingness to be coached, a learning attitude, a beginner's mind. I've always noticed that I always tell someone who's a great client from me because they have that almost a childlike sense of wonder and beginner's mind, an attitude of learning versus knowing. And it actually comes very rarely, but the great ones all seem to have that. I remember listening, you didn't want to get too much into sports metaphors, but I remember the other day I saw a YouTube video with Michael Jordan. He said he always did whatever the coach told him to do because he felt he had something to learn. So those are my 3-part answers to your question.
Let me play on that for a moment, if I could, with you, Robert.
Yeah.
We're talking to Robert Hargrove, who is best-selling author of the book called Masterful Coaching. So he coaches both executives, executive teams, and he teaches coaching to coaches, future coaches.
Very good framing. Thank you.
Yeah, if you're one of those people, Masterful Coaching is the name of the book. It's a New York Times bestseller, and it's a New York Times, as you do your research, will say that he spawned an entire movement. So good for you on doing that. Let me talk to you about where we are, and people need to reach me. It's at ELLIOT at prosperityfinancialgroup.com, and the website is prosperityfinancialgroup.com. And don't be afraid to send us some notes, and I'll pass them along to Robert and make sure that he answers whatever questions you might have in the future. But when I talk to business owners, and I've got a plethora of business owners as clients, and we talk about the phases of their business, which is building it, and in the middle of it, you've got some profitability or a lot of profitability, and your kids are going to college, and you've got the cash flow to cover it, and hopefully you're not getting divorced because you got stupid. And then the final third phase is, now what do I do? I'm in my 60s, and what do I do in my business? And I try to teach one major word to everybody when I say, Elliot, you've gone through a lot of difficulties in your life. You're not at a straight line. You've lost a child along the way, and you still have to build your business. You've had a lot of things that didn't go well in your life, but somehow you came out the other side of this in a pretty good spot that most people would call me fairly successful at what I do. And I would say, if I were to describe any one word or two words about me, it would be tenacity and fortitude. And they're both soft tissue type of traits: tenacity, fortitude, or integrity. I'm a big fan that character counts with you, Robert.
Yeah, you reminded me of something you just said, kicked something off in me. So if I was to add a fourth point to what I said, the character skills, daring to dream, an attitude of learning, and what you just said stimulated me to think this: growth through adversity. It seems like all successful people went through adversity at some point or another that would cause most people to give up or not even try. So that's how you described yourself, and that's extremely important. But go ahead.
I hope at my funeral, that's how people describe me: growth through tenacity. But you brought something up that was really, really good. And that is, for the person who's on the receiving side of advice, which is sometimes not easy to take, especially painful advice, are they willing to be coached? Can they listen, not just hear, can they listen and inculcate into their soul the willingness to get better? There are a lot of commercials on TV where there's an older coach teaching somebody how to play baseball, or they're crossing a log and he's jumping up on there, and then you see them in a professional world on that. And so many of us, Robert, get defensive when we're being coached, and we get mad at the teacher. That you can't tell me what to do. I've been doing this for a long time, especially if you've had success. Like, who are you to tell me that? I've already made more money than you, or I'm already more successful than you. And they're bad listeners, and they're bad learners. So if somebody is like that, how do you tell them that? And if they're like that and they want to improve their stuff, how do they change that?
Well, I think it's there's two ways the human beings operate on two channels. One is the channel of getting better through learning. The other is what I call defensive routines. And when you're coaching someone, you're kind of like really walking a fine line between keeping them on the learning side of the tennis court, and keeping them off the defensive side of the tennis court, or the offensive side and the defensive side. And there's a fine art to coaching someone to let's say, find their greatness or reach their biggest goals faster. And where you stand in their greatness. That's one of the things that a good coach does. They stand in your greatness, even when you fall from it. But again, there's a fine line between standing in someone's greatness and helping them to improve, and then making the person feel wrong, invalidated. And it takes a very skillful coach to be able to do that. But I think one of the things that makes a difference in terms of someone's willingness to listen is whether they have that mission that they're going after, whether they have a dream that's burning a hole inside them. If I have a dream that's burning a hole inside me, I'm much more likely to listen to what a coach has to say. Like, I want to become the CEO of the company. I want to make the team, whatever it is. If I don't have a big dream, if I only have a small dream, and I can get there without coaching, then that's much more easy for my defenses to be triggered. So one of the first jobs as a coach is to get people to dare to dream, to elevate their aspirations and motivations, so that they become willing to accept coaching. I have another point to add to this, but
Okay, well, I want to talk to you about passion in a moment, but I want to bring up, when I first started in business, Zig Ziglar was still on the circuit, and so many of those old Og Mandigos. There were so many great coaches that were out there, and I in my 20s, I already was a big fan of coaching on there. So, and I would when I owned my company in the 80s, which was in my 20s, I brought in outside coaches to talk to salespeople. I had 35 people there, and we did meetings at the Holiday Inn in Newark Airport, and I would bring in different coaches like yourself to talk about different things. And I found that Zig Ziglar had said one thing that was completely wrong, and I always wanted to correct this. And I'm sure he's rolling in his grave with me even saying that, but he said, anything that you can conceive, you can achieve. And we now know that that's not true, because I can tell you that I can dream that I want to be the next New York Jets quarterback. And there's no possible way, no matter how much training I do and go through, that I will be the next New York Jets quarterback. So I need to be realistic too on my dreams. They need to be focused. And so that's where I want to get into passion and focus with you for a moment.
Well, there's a few. I would agree and disagree with you. Nelson Mandela said everything is impossible until it's achieved. Walt Disney said it's fun to do the impossible. However, I'm coaching a guy that's kind of the COO of Honda. And he made a point with me the other day. He said, if I set the goals too high, people feel demotivated. He said, if I set the goals too low, people feel demotivated. I think, there's you as a CEO, as a manager, as a team leader, you want to set the goals not too, you have to have that dream out there that people are pointing to. What was their line that, shoot for the stars and hit the moon? There's a sort of a balance between. I think you have to do both. You have to shoot for the moon, and you have to have goals that are stretch goals but realistic. But you're making me think of Zig Ziglar, and it comes back to an important point that's not so lofty as what we're talking about. Is hard work. The people who are the best workers, the best CEOs, are the people that work more than anybody else. Mark Cuban says, I knew I would succeed because no one was going to outlearn me or outwork me. And I remember that quote from Zig Ziglar where he said, it wasn't a quote, it was a story he told called Acres of Diamonds. Did you ever hear that one? He said you had to dig through acres of dirt to get to the diamonds. And a lot of people aren't willing to do that. If you look at top CEOs and entrepreneurs, C-suite members, they're people that work 10 times harder than anybody else.
We're talking to Robert Hargrove, who's a coach and a coach's coach and author of Masterful Coaching. And if you want to reach me again, it's Elliot, ELLIOT at Prosperity Financial Group or prosperityfinancialgroup.com. And we're talking about coaching. And this is exciting for me as a longtime fan of coaching. If you're an executive, if you're a CEO and you're listening to this, or COO, don't be afraid. We'll give you Robert's information in just a few minutes on how to reach him. But these are just wonderful things. He's got a podcast called 10 Lessons you can learn on coaches, and just pick his brains, because you're going to learn something from him on how to do what you do better. And that's the key. And so let me tell you about hard work for a second, Robert, if I could. So I was very fortunate I don't want to say I was very fortunate. Let me say I was very blessed that my father was born in 1915, and he was part of the greatest generation, and World War II happened. And when I came around, and he grew up in a depression and then World War II. And then, lots of friends didn't come back from World War II that he had and so forth. And he used to say to me as I was young growing up, he would say, whisper in my ear, and he would say, remember that nothing makes up for hard work. Nothing. And granted, I always said, but Dad, the garbage guys who pick up our garbage work hard. They work so hard. He said, well, that's because they don't have the opportunity to make a lot of money. And in those days, but they still work hard. But nothing will make up for hard work. You can't just not work and then expect to have the opportunity. They're married to each other.
That's a beautiful point. And I don't want to try to trump that. It's a great point. My son is, I have a son who's I'm old, but I have a young son, he's 16. He wants to get into a great college, Harvard, Stanford, whatever. But I noticed that he spends a lot of time looking at his devices. He's always looking at the TikTok or Instagram or whatever the hell it is. And I said, I told him, all the time you spend on that, you're not studying physics or calculus or whatever, and it's not consistent with your goal. So I know you made me think of that.
So passion, how important is passion? That you go to work and you have this burn inside of you that you want to really succeed, or it's a job, it's a career, and I'm doing the best I could do. How important is that?
I think it's mission critical. You can see that both of us are you referred to us the other day as geezers. We're not geeks. We're more geezers than geeks. But you can see we both, in this conversation, we both have a lot of passion. I'm like a bursting rocket ship. If I wasn't tied to my chair, I could take off. I think it's essential. And again, it's something you often don't see in big companies. A lot of times, big companies knock the passion out of people because all of the hierarchy and the bureaucracy and the what I call the bureaucratic rigmarole. So I think there's to give everybody a little quiz that might be helpful on this call. One is to be really successful, whether you want to get to the top and stay at the top, or if being at the top doesn't matter, being great at what you do. What are you passionate about? That's question one. Because you can't be great at something if you're not passionate about it. I love talking about coaching. You can see how passionate I am. So what I'm asking now, let me step back. I'm speaking to you who are listening. What is it that you're truly passionate about and that you love doing? And are you making a living doing something that you're passionate about? So that's the first question for each listener. What are you passionate about? The second question is, what are you the best in the world at? Or at least, what are you really good at? What is your strike zone? What are you really great at? If you can marry what you're passionate about with what you're good at, you'll be a good chance of being successful. And the third question is, and I hope everybody is reflecting on this, is who are the people that you want to serve? I heard the guy from Shark Tank, Kevin O'Leary, say the other day something I really liked. Mr. Wonderfully said, the fastest way to make $1 million is to find a customer with a problem. And he was referring not just to a customer, but to a group of customers. So those three questions: what are you passionate about? What are you the best in the world at, or something like that? And who are the people that you want to serve? You put those three together, there'll be no stopping you.
Well, I think as we wrap this up here, Robert, I got my final question here. This has been great. And I hope you could feel, everybody who's listening to this, that how the passion for both of us and why coaching is so important, and how to harness your passion. You don't need to be the best in the world. I know Robert said it. You don't need to be the best in the world at something, but what you need to be is the best that you could be.
Good at something. That's what I was trying to say.
There's only one Michael Jordan out there.
Yeah.
There aren't 45 Michael Jordans or one Magic Johnson or one whoever. But if you're the best you can be at what you do, then you are going to have an impact in the marketplace.
A lot of people do have something passionate that they're passionate about, but they're not in touch with it. Or they are really good at something, but they don't even know what it is. It gets folded in with everything else that they're doing. And I think that third thing is, who are the people that you want to serve? That's very important. Why are you the number one business podcast in the world? Because you're trying to serve a certain group of people. You're trying to help your audience, Elliot, increase their impact and their income, as well as your own in the process.
Absolutely. So greatest challenges, let's end on this note, if I could, Robert. Greatest challenges for a business owner or a CEO who's trying to get coaching, trying to do better, trying to grow his company, trying to stay married, trying to be a good father or mother, maybe a good parent because they're taking care, maybe a good child because they're taking care of elderly parents. You got a lot of things that could be happening in your life. For me, it's always been time management. I'm CEO of 3 entities. I know for other people, there aren't enough hours in a day. I always kid, I think 40 hours is a part-time job. What do you think? Am I saying the right thing, or is there even a bigger challenge to most people like myself who run entities?
Reframe that for me again, please. I wasn't sure I understood it.
So a lot of CEOs like myself, I'm CEO of 3 entities, 3 organizations that I'm CEO of. There aren't enough hours in a day. Time management. I can't be a great dad, a great husband, a great business owner of company 1, company 2, organization 3, a great child to taking care of elderly parents. I can't do all these things at the same time. It's not possible to do. So I have to balance life out all the time, which means I've got to have good quality time management. And if I don't, then time eats me up and I'm a servant to it. Would you say that's one of the great challenges to executives today?
I wouldn't. As a process, we do it. I want to say 2 things, actually, if I have a moment. One is there's a great quote by Peter Drucker, the founder of modern management. And he said something that a little bit contradicts what you said, but not really. He said, the only time anything is accomplished, I have learned, is when there's a monomaniac with a mission who's not trying to balance his life. That's when things happen. Having said that, there's a time management exercise we do at Masterful Coaching with our clients. And that is, we take 3 months of your calendar and we look at what did you do every day, or we even actually break it down by the hour. And we break it down into 3 categories. Things I did that made a difference, things I do that make a difference, things I do that are important, and things I do that are trivial. One of the things we discovered in doing this exercise over 30 years is that most people get stuck in doing what's important and forget to work on the things that make a difference. Everything is important, but you have to have the discipline to take yourself out of doing things that are important to doing things that really make the difference. Having said that, I can empathize with when you're busy running 3 companies, no matter how you slice it, it's hard to get through the day, but I'm sure you do a great job.
So Robert, if people want to reach you, if they want to learn how to be a coach, if they want to reach out at an executive team and say, come coach my team to a new place, help us 3X and 10X, come bring us to another level, come bring me personally to another level, how do they reach out to you, Robert?
Well, you can call our office number in the Boston area, but it's very easy to do things by Zoom. You don't have to be in Boston. The number is 617-953-5252. That's 617-953-5252. You can also write my email, and let me state it, Robert.Hargrove. Don't forget the dot. Robert.Hargrove, Hargrove, at rhargrove.com. You can catch me on LinkedIn, and you can see my books on Amazon.com. And I really hope to see some people from this podcast. I really enjoyed talking to you. You're an excellent interviewer. You really framed the whole conversation very well, putting the various parts of my experience together with your experience and bringing me out.
Well, it's a pleasure having you on. If you want to reach us again, we've been talking about coaching with Robert Hargrove. Obviously, he's outstanding at what he does. Masterful Coaching is his book. The New York Times said he invented basically the world of coaching as we know it today, and perfected it. So reach out to him, and you can reach me at Elliot, ELLIOT, at prosperityfinancialgroup.com, 925-314-8503, excuse me, or prosperityfinancialgroup.com. Robert, great having you on. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And we'll see you again, folks. Have a great day.